Sometimes I have to be Dr. Phil. I'm the tough love guy. I got to come in. Hey, you want to be great? I love it. But you're not doing the work. Here's what you got to do. I caught you slacking here. You got to be Dr. Phil. But my least favorite person I have to be is Bob Knight.
Yeah.
I do not like throwing chairs and throwing phones and ripping my red sweater and screaming at people to get the job done. But ultimately, I get paid to make somebody great. And if I have to be Bob Knight, I'll reluctantly put on my red sweater. Welcome to the Whole Pro Podcast, brought to you by the Tennessee Section PGA. I'm Virgil Herring, two-time Tennessee Section Teacher of the Year, and joining me, my partner in crime in this, former Tennessee Section President, great buddy of mine, Jim Vernon. Jim, how we doing today, buddy?
We're good, man. How are everything with you? I just saw something that Cameron just signed. You got both kids playing golf. Dude, you're so proud you can't even breathe right now, aren't you?
Yeah, it's anytime you invest in your kids, and you never know what's going to happen, right? To have their dreams, that particular dream come true, and they've invested so much time in. Basically, my kid's been playing golf since it could stand up.
Yeah, I figured.
Right. So my youngest son, Cameron, got a scholarship to play at Florida Southern, which is a major power in D2 golf. That's where Lee Jansen and Rocco Mediate went.
I remember. Lee Jansen was back in my day.
Yeah. So, it's really cool when each one of my kids now have a seminal moment that touched my heart. Literally just crushed me in the best way possible. It was that's a big day for a kid, and certainly a big day for a dad who's poured endless amounts of hours into their game. After I was traveling doing an event at Macklemore, I was driving back when he got the call, and then I get to home, and he just barges in the door and gives me this huge hug and says, "Daddy, we did it."
Dude, did it flow? I'd have lost it. I got girls. I've been crying since for the last 27 years.
Yeah, just a wishy-washy, sopping mess.
That's so good, though.
But it's the best, right? And thank you, guys. It's when you pour in, once again, we talked about it in the last episode, foundations, right? My boys are my foundation. Mm-hmm. And, things have happened in life that, aren't predictable. And you never know how big of a rock you need to be for them sometimes. And so my relationship with my boys is pretty spectacular. So to have that occur and have that moment that you'll never forget, that's a moment that is literally sledgehammered into the middle of my forehead of because the level of joy in his heart from earning the scholarship.
And he said, we did it, man.
We did it, Dad. Ooh.
Crush. In the best way possible.
In the best way possible. And I think that's one of the coolest pieces of it
love that.
Is just, once again, if you follow the process, you never know when things are going to happen, but they ultimately will. And there's a great example of it.
So good.
So
good.
Today, our show this is a really impactful one. I think more people need to think of things this way. But the title of this one is, how does your job make you show up at your job, and how you think about your job makes you show up? When you think about that, Jim, and then you come at this business from another side of it, what does that mean to you?
There's a quote that I think is in a Jim Vernon original that I say how you view your job impacts how you do your job. And when I speak to groups or companies or whatever, and a little talk about that, there's a couple of stories that pop to mind there that I bet most people will know the second one, but the first one I read it years ago, and it's called the Bricklayer story. And we'll call him a traveler. He's walking down the road, and he comes up on a construction site, and there's three guys that are laying bricks that are pretty far apart from each other. He gets up on the first guy, and the guy's looks just, like schlep rock, and he's got terrible body language. He's got a wall about 3 feet high in front of him, works not too neat. And he walks up to him and says, hey, what are you doing? He looks up at him and says, what does it look like I'm doing, dude? I'm laying bricks. He goes, okay. Moves on down to the next guy a little bit, and this guy's got a taller wall in front of him. He got a smile on his face, looks a lot better, and he says, hey, what are you doing? He goes, well, hey, I'm building a wall. And he goes down to that third guy, and this guy's up on a ladder, man. His wall is like 10 feet high, and it looks meticulous. He is whistling while he's doing it, smiling, waves at the guy walking up to him. He goes, "Hey, up there, what are you doing?" And he kind of looks at his wall and looks back behind him and says, "Well, I'm building a cathedral." 3 guys doing the exact same job that have a different, I would say, starting mindset and also attitude about what they were doing. So I do believe that how you view your job really does impact how you do it, how good the work is, how you feel about the work. And all of us, at some point I don't care what you do in your job, at some point it's going to feel more than likely monotonous or repetitive, particularly on what kind of job that you've got. And so the people that I know that do it the best, and that even when we have those valleys, the way you get yourself back out of that valley, in my opinion, is to think about what is the broader view of what I do? How do I impact other people in a positive way? And I think, particularly in the golf business, you think about being a coach and me being managing a business forever, not only just the employees, but the regular customers, how you impact those people. We aren't just dudes that hang out at the golf course, and nobody in our business is. When we remember there was a banner you used to be able to hang in your office, or that the PGA put out, that listed something like 20 different roles that a PGA professional has during the day. One of them being on their counselor and stuff like that. And all of those are true to a certain extent. So I think people that view their jobs in a broader way and how it impacts others in a positive way seem to weather those valleys better and do a better job while they're doing it.
Yeah, so I'm going to attack it from 2 different sides, right? So one is if you're the leader of the club, you're the head professional director of golf. You have to, and I think of in the quote from Top Gun Maverick, as they're getting ready to head into the big mission, Maverick looks at Goose's son, which I can't remember his name, but I mean at the end of the day,
what is it? Is it Rooster?
Rooster,
maybe.
And he's like, they already have their issue because because his dad died in the crash with Maverick. He's like, "Hey man, you got this." And as the leader, reminding everybody that's underneath you how important they are, and give them that's how you change their view of what they're doing. But a lot of the grinders, they don't take the time to applaud and uplift others because they weren't uplifted when they were in that position. And now that I'm in this much better position, that must mean that's the only way to get to this position. So they don't give you the compliments. They don't build you up. But that learning style, that coaching style of being the uplifter is really important. And I when I'm doing my lessons as a coach, I say you have to be one of 3 people. I have to be Oprah Winfrey. I got to put my arm around you and tell you how much I love you and how great you are. Mm-hmm. That works for a lot of people. Sometimes I have to be Dr. Phil. I'm the tough love guy. I got to come in. Hey, you want to be great? I love it. But you're not doing the work. Here's what you got to do. I caught you slacking here. I got to be Dr. Phil. But my least favorite person I have to be is Bob Knight.
Yeah.
I do not like throwing chairs and throwing phones and ripping my red sweater and screaming at people to get the job done. But ultimately, I get paid to make somebody great. And if I have to be Bob Knight, I'll reluctantly put on my red sweater. Now, on the other side of that, you're at the bottom of the pole. What are some of the things that you can do to make your attitude better? Well, once again, if you can imagine yourself being at the top, what would you want to see yourself doing right now? And what I'd call pay it forward. Even if you're not getting the love that you want or so much need, if you constantly deliver awesomeness at what you're doing, I can guarantee you it's never been easier to succeed than it is right now. And if you demonstrate
and stand out,
yeah. It has never been easier. If you have the ability to just do that, and once again, falling back on foundationally, find your fundamentals, find what matters to you, what makes your life, what are the keys to your life, and then attack your work with those foundations and deliver to the best of your ability, a rising tide can raise all boats. But you have to go at it with the attitude of you can't be worried about what other people think about how you do your job. You have to go about it in that manner. And if you can do it with a level of love and a smile on your face and good body language, it's a contagious, little plague that positively impacts the entire company. So whether you're at the top or you're at the bottom, either one has the ability to raise all the boats. And I think that's super important for people to understand.
I totally agree with that. And again, it's how you view it. And sometimes we have to get outside of ourselves a little bit to view our job differently, because we got in that rut. When you were talking about that be the three different people that made me think. When I talk on leadership, there are two main styles that I see mostly, and there's a awesome book called Good to Great by a guy named Jim Collins, which is an awesome book. And he talks about show horses and work horses. And I think if you can have, people usually tend to be one or the other. Okay. But I think it's important to recognize some of the style of that other one, because you need some of that sometimes. In my talk, I talk about that leader. My folks that I'm leading are in a wagon. Okay. So I'm either the leader that's out front pulling the wagon, basically talking, inspiring people to, hey, come on, this is how we're doing it. And in my opinion, at least, that wagon moves a lot smoother. You ever tried to pull a wagon? It's better, because the other type is the leader that stands behind and tries to push the wagon. And when you got the handle and you try, what that feels like? It's almost like it's pushing against you sometimes. So there are two ways to do that. But I do believe that there are times that people have to be pushed to do it. Okay. Even if it's difficult and rocky and whatever, somebody who pulls all the time either has to have somebody that complements that and is able to do the pushing, or you have to recognize, both of those. But I think, like you said, in my opinion, part of my job as a leader, whenever I would talk about it, or even when I was managing a business, was to hopefully not just motivate people, because I use the word inspire way more often, because I think that's more applicable and more helpful. The definitions of those two words, and again, this is stuff that I talk about some, is, motivate has a title, a definition. It's something like to be caused with a reason to act or something. Okay. If my yard gets too high, then it's time, I'm motivated to go mow it so it doesn't look crappy. But there's a definition of an inspiration that says imbued with a spirit to do something. Well, damn it, man. I want that sounds way more inspirational. I want to be imbued with a spirit to do something. I want to follow somebody that's imbued with a spirit to do something. And so when you have that feeling inside of you like that, I think that helps you see the broader view of what you were doing, and you view it differently so that it will impact you differently.
Yeah, I agree. So we've talked already about how my belief is specialized, and I did it very direct and entrepreneurial reasons and all those things we've documented in the previous podcast. But here's how I'd encourage people to consider this. If you go about your job in a way that is a leader, okay? So what I mean by this is, like we talked about, my belief says if the only time you're a real professional, golf professional, is if you play the game great and you teach the game great, because that's what separates us. But let's just say you're not into either of those. The next best thing you need to be is a leader.
Amen.
Okay. So now we're in a situation, leaders out there, this is what I'm talking to you specifically. You need to have more psychology understanding, leadership understanding, because understand that 1 out of every 2 people that walk into your organization is divorced. We're coming off of one of the worst possible things ever, which was the COVID disaster. And all political sides of that away, it was massively negative, impactful, while being the greatest impetus to our sport ever.
Yeah.
Because people lost their livelihood for nothing. Like for nothing. It's devastating what's happened. So you got a whole slew of people that lost, that are disillusioned by a foundation of their life, that 50% of the, well, 53% now of divorce. Then you have kids that were stripped of going to school, then going to school with masks. So they lost that personality piece. There's so much socialization that was lost in that particular piece, on top of the moral decay that Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, and all of the, so you got all of these factors that are actually showing up at your workplace, and most of the time negatively impacting the day-to-day, because the weight of those three things are negative. So you have to do a great job of empathizing, in some cases, but not all cases, sympathizing, but being able to kind of take all the ingredients and turn those lemons into lemonade. How can you, and most people just really, if you feel like you're being seen and heard, everything changes. But most people don't have the time to make it feel like they're seeing and hearing their employees. And to me, if you're in that leadership role that's not teaching or playing, the one way that separates is that feeling of the people that are involved in it. They know that every single person that works at the golf course with you will fight to the death for you. Buddy, that's the key. It's the insurance policy against the clerk, as you put it, is that you have the ability to inspire others to greatness. And if something ever starts to happen, you lose your greens because it got over 100 degrees for 50 straight days or whatever, and the golf course is struggling. And you're like, well, might have to get rid of the highest paid salaries, which is one of the first thoughts a lot of people go to. People would die to make sure that you don't leave because of that. That's how you create your security. That's how you do it. And that then is so infectious, because if you live your life that way, how you view your job is how you do your job. That then extrapolates outward to every single person. And if you don't do that, so many people point it out, and that person gets weeded out because that's not the standard that has been set by the leadership.
We touched on this a little bit in a previous episode too there, and I think another way, and we're focusing a little bit on leading others there, how to impact those other people is, I think we talked a little bit earlier about giving them some responsibility. I do a bunch of customer service talks, and I lumped it, although I think this is applicable all across running a business, it's empowering your people. And giving them a sense of ownership of what they're doing and what they can do. And that helps them view their job a little bit differently if they have some ownership on what we do. Because think about it, if particularly from, I don't want to delve into customer service too much here, but when you know the whole thing, when you call somewhere and you try to get help with something and you can't get help, that's not my job, I got to move on, I got to do that. I mean, that's the worst thing in the world. Have to tell your story 9 times over. Empower those people to do what they can do and see if they can handle it. You're going to find out a lot who your next leaders and good employees are going to be. I talk a lot about the early days of Southwest Airlines in some of my talks, particularly because of the way that they focus on how they dealt with. In their minds, the employee was number one, because if they took care of their employees, they would take care of their customers. And their former president, and what a great story! She was an executive assistant that rose to the president of the company. And they asked Herb Kelleher, the first CEO, why he named her as president, and he said, "Because I knew that she will love people to success." And one of the things that she used to talk about, and it had to do with dealing with others and customers, was to empower your folks, that they had very few rules that had to be followed as long as you leaned toward your customer and toward your employee. Okay? If you lean that way, then everything else, we could work everything else out. And part of my talk is that, what the worst thing that happens if you empower your people to take care of their employees or their customers, the worst thing, they've taken care of their employees or customers. All right. So I think that's another way when people are empowered and they feel like I have more of a stake, it may be, if you will, then I view my job differently. And that's something that you can actively do as a leader in your place to help people view their job differently.
100%. And so my solution is to, once you've established your foundations and now you have your role within your foundations, now you're the director of golf, be the tide that raises all boats. And more than likely, you're going to have to receive education on leading the struggling. And the lower the income level of the employee that you're dealing with, likely you're dealing with the lesser educated, the less gifts that have been given to them, as in like the things that can nourish their mind and their belief in themselves. Because you can't outperform your self-image. And if you've never seen anything other than negative, or you grew up in a family where expect the worst to happen, so if something really good happens you can really celebrate, versus shoot for the stars and maybe you land on the moon. But I tell you, that's probably one of the biggest things that ever happened to me. Is I was kind of grew up in a small town in Pennsylvania where it was kind of expect bad things to happen because it's tough out there, and anytime something good happens, but now you have a real reason to be excited. And so I'm at a job in Chicago, and one of the pros, his name's Courtney Miller, I owe him a ton. He's like, hey man, you're so negative. Like everything's like, you just think the worst is going to happen. How about can you do something for me? 30 days. We're going to change how you talk. We're going to talk about how great things are, how great you're going to do. And you're going to reach for the stars. I want you to be, this is what they're giving a 21-year-old the ability to teach as much golf as they want outside of the 39 and a half hours I have to work in the shop. So I just attacked it because I wanted to prove him that I could, even if I was super positive, life would still suck. That was my, I'll show you the life of hard knocks.
Yeah, exactly.
And then it literally changed my life. So all of what you see here, I would tell you the largest impetus to my positive nature and how I go about my life is owed to Courtney Miller. And because he was super positive. And I just think back to like, if I hadn't heard that, somebody didn't invest in me who was higher up in the totem pole at the golf course, I don't know where I'd be right now. But you never know. Like literally the most important thing, you never know how your positive words of encouragement are going to impact somebody's life.
Oh my God.
And always revert to that.
When you said reach for the stars and land on the moon, that made me think of and you know that I love to tell stories. So our listeners can go ahead and just strap in because that'll get a heavy dose of them. But this is a great one, and I think this one is fairly well known. It's about a janitor that worked at NASA. And the president at the time, Kennedy, was coming. And remember, Kennedy had a thing where we're gonna land on the moon by the end of this decade. So this is, I don't know I don't get my ears wrong, but it's early 60s. And he walks into the building, a NASA building, and sees the janitor that's walking across and doesn't say what he's doing. It's not like he has his equipment with him. He's got a name tag on. The president says, "Hey, how you doing? Nice to meet you. What do you do here?" And he looks at the president and smiles and said, "Well, Mr. President, I'm helping us get to the moon." The dude is a janitor at the building, and he sees his job as part of helping people get to the moon. Now, I don't know if this guy was born like that. I mean, that would be amazing if he was. Chances are he has parents, teachers, coaches, PGA professionals, leaders along the way that helped him feel that way and have that kind of mindset / attitude about life. I mean, I love that story so much. I picture that guy all the time smiling at the president, because first of all, he got to shake the hand of the president saying, "Well, Mr. President, I'm helping us get to the moon. Now he's going to go sweep the bathroom." I mean, that's freaking awesome.
That is awesome. Well, you've been listening to the Whole Pro podcast. You can send your feedback and your emails and the answer to this next question from Jim to thewholepro@gmail.com. You can also find us on Spotify, iTunes, and YouTube at The Whole Pro Podcast. But now for everybody's favorite part. Jim Vernon's movie quote of the week. Inspire us all, JV. Where are we going this week?
I wonder, when you say everybody's favorite part, is it really everybody's favorite part, or is it just my favorite part? But I appreciate you indulging me so that it can be my favorite part, because it absolutely is. Not to take anything away from everything else. Name the movie this quote is from. I live my life a quarter mile at a time. Leave some answers there at our Gmail too, and don't forget how much we thank the Tennessee Section PGA each week for supporting us in what we're doing here, bud.
Yeah, 100%. So once again, the Tennessee PGA is our presenting sponsor, and please feel free to follow us at all social media platforms and on YouTube. We look forward to next time. Have a great day.